The Indonesian Ministry for Tourism supports an annual rally for all types of yachts right across Indonesia. The country is considered to be basically safe, but also very bureaucratic. It is difficult for individual boats to get the appropriate permit documents, and so 24 boats and crews register for the organized wonderful Sail to Indonesia tour through Indonesia and are able to avoid a lot of bureaucracy this way. The sailing boat Oda from Norway and the motor yacht Southern Star from New Zealand also take part. We've been sailing together since Vanuatu and have forged a firm friendship since the incident in the Coral Sea. The crew of the Moni chose to explore Fiji thoroughly, and we parted ways in New Zealand. The rally starts right in the east of Indonesia on the island of Yamdena in the city of Somlaki. After a 2,000 sea-mile-long island tour through this part of Asia, our journey will end right in the west on the island of Banda, directly opposite Singapore. The reception in Somlaki is akin to a state occasion. The police cordon off the streets and the school orchestra picks us up from the harbour. Together we march to the school accompanied by lots of music. The official welcome ceremony is held here. We feel honoured and flattered because, after all, we are only simple sailors wanting to explore this country. We very quickly get used to the charm of improvisation, as there's no such thing as long-term planning here. The rally follows an official schedule, however there's no obligation to call on every planned anchor place. A few islands further on is Moa, and we are the first boat to arrive there. A fantastic countryside, but a lousy anchor place. The anchor coves of the large passenger ferries are also called harbours here and are completely unsuitable for yachts due to the depth of the water and the coral. After a short excursion on land, we leave Moa just one night later and search for a better anchor place close by. The neighbouring island of Leti is not on the official program, but anchoring is good here. The island children are very happy to have visits from strangers, so we are never able to explore the island alone. We have a laughing swarm of children around us the whole time as soon as we reach the beach. This hustle and bustle is unfamiliar, but very heartening. The happiness and laughter are contagious, and good humour reigns on board the boat, especially when prawns from Australia magically appear out of the freezer on board. Kizar is located a few islands further on, and we are invited to the official celebrations of the 69th Independence Day. The Republic of Indonesia today is actually a very young country and has a very moving and, on occasion, also very tragic history. Only its recent past explains the incredible pride that the 250 million inhabitants have in their country. Indonesia has only been a democracy for 70 years, and it's a wonder to us that this enormous kingdom, comprising over 17,000 islands, can function as a country. And more than half of the population live on the medium-sized main island of Java. Independence Day is celebrated at the same time on all islands with military honors, and we have the great fortune to be able to experience it on Kizar. The flag parade takes over 1 hour and can't be topped for wholeheartedness. We are able to experience the dancing and ritualistic duels afterwards up close, because as guests we are politely but firmly invited to join in. Up to then we didn't have the impression that the people were poor. However, we learned in Wita that there are also poor villages. On the small islands off the ferry routes there is nothing but farming, animal husbandry and fishing for personal consumption. We make a villager very happy by giving him simple reading glasses and chide ourselves for not having thought to buy more in Australia as useful gifts as guests. The large city of Kalabahi on the island of Ayla is our next stop. Asian life pulsates here in a way familiar from the television. Local transportation is taken care of by thousands of small private buses, so-called tuk-tuks. There are no official stops. You simply wave when you want to get on and shout when you want to get off. You really do have to shout, because the music in the bus is so loud. At the beginning we are skeptical as to whether the driver can actually see the street at all through the windscreen covered in stickers. Later, we no longer gave a thought to things like that. We first rent scooters in Calabahi for an exploratory tour under our own steam. Everything is different to home: the traffic, the refueling, and the speed. Music in general, and karaoke in particular, play an important role in Indonesia. Those who don't sing, or at least sing along, are considered unfriendly. The skipper, always endeavoring to adapt to local customs, courageously sang his best version of ABBA's Dancing Queen in a karaoke bar, only to be confronted with criticism from a Brit that his appearance had destroyed a young girl's dream. Still in Calabahi, one evening 4 boat crews are invited to take to the stage at a gala dinner in national costume. Every region has their own weaving patterns for material. We are dressed and made up in the costumes of the Kolana region. Kami dari Kolana, we say when it's our turn, and naturally everybody understands what we say. We come from Kolana, no doubt about it. The island of Ballerine is not on the official program, but is supposed to offer a perfect anchor cove. Already while entering port, we are surrounded by children and young people in their canoes and greeted with hooting. The children know how to behave. None just climbs on board. Everyone stays in their boat and bombards us with questions in broken English about everything under the sun. Where from, where to, how old, name. They all insist that we photograph them. Ballerine is one of the poorer islands, but that doesn't appear to worry the hordes of happy children. The next official program stop is Rarotonga, in the east of the island of Flores. The current between the islands is so strong that we almost shoot past the anchor place at a speed of 12 knots. Unfortunately, not many rally boats come here. That's a pity, because they have a minister-president who speaks fluent English and gives his guests a very impressive interpretation of Rod Stewart's sailing during a karaoke evening. On an official bus tour of the rally, we visit a village school and immediately take the loving children in our hearts. We can see the happiness of the children over our visit and their pride at being able to perform for us. Hans, our travel guide on this day, is also happy. He's actually an English teacher and is pleased to be finally able to put it to use. English lessons are given at every school, but the opportunity to speak with strangers in English is quite rare. Unfortunately, the skipper is in bed with a bad cold and isn't able to experience anything of Maroli. Heidi explores the hinterlands with a crew of another boat and brings back sensational pictures of the Kalimutu volcanic lakes. Island-rich Indonesia runs almost straight along the 8th parallel of south latitude. The large islands of Timor, Flores and Java separate the shallow Java Sea from the deep Indian Ocean. We have now been traveling for over 40 days in Indonesia, and it's only now that we reach anything like a tourist hotspot. Labuan Bajo is probably not listed in every travel guide, but it's very well known amongst divers and adventure holiday makers. After all, this region is home to the famous Komodo dragons, and wherever it's possible to gaze at wild animals in their natural habitat, tourists will also be there, on and underwater. The Komodo dragons make a friendly impression to us, but we have been strictly warned against getting too close to the animals, because this is their strategy. If prey gets close enough that it can be reached with their front paws and jaw, the Komodo dragons spring. Their saliva is very poisonous, and the prey is immediately polished off. Another of the well-rehearsed myths of the tourist hotspot is that of the memorial cross on the summit of a hill. It is in memory of a Swissman supposed to have disappeared here. We stay a few days in this fantastic deserted landscape, which belongs just to us sailors after the tourist boats have traveled home. More or less coincidentally, we anchor at the tent hotel of Mojo. We expect a simple tourist hostel, but find ourselves in a 5-star hotel with every conceivable luxury in the middle of the wilderness. Of course, corresponding prices. On the way to Lombok, we simply stay overnight where it's possible. We take advantage of a short stop over in the city of Sumbawa Bisa for extensive shopping. 60,000 inhabitants live here, but it seems to us that there are 70,000 scooters on the street. We can no longer really rely on the nautical charts, as they are more often wrong than right close to the coast. For example, if we had relied on the chart, you'd have dropped anchor on land here. Catching fish on board the Stormvogel never really gets going. The fish are also not biting on any other rally boat. In contrast, local fishermen are successful and we have to buy our fish directly from the cutter. What a disgrace. Lombok is Bali's lesser-known neighbouring island. Here Peter, a Brit, opened the Midana Bay Marina many years ago. His family and staff do everything to provide full satisfaction to the rally fleet. Peter is an active member of the local Muslim community. We are invited to breakfast in the mosque and experience the last 10 minutes of the service. Naturally, we don't understand a word, but we sense that we are well received by the people here and are genuinely welcome. Together with other rally crews, we rent a motorized canoe with boom and coxswain to visit the 3 Gillies. Ah yes, we have now arrived in the absolutely touristy part of Indonesia. Bars, restaurants and cafes, small hotels and huts for tourists directly on the fine white sand beaches. If we are truthful, we enjoy this trip into this, apparently, Western world. We leave the Stormvogel on the Midana Bay Marina and take the fast ferry to Bali. A few trips on land in a chic hotel help alleviate any upcoming boat doldrums. Also a must from time to time. We explore Bali with a local driver and attempt to stay away from the high-rise hotels on the Indian Ocean. Our driver tells us to call him Bim Bim because he's actually the hotel bellboy. We don't think Bim Bim sounds politically correct, but he insists on it. We see impressive rice terraces and fantastic temples, but what we love the most are the streets full of craftspeople. We particularly love the woodworkers. Back on the Stormvogel, almost every rally boat wants to go to the island of Borneo, or Kalimantan as it's now called, to visit the orangutans that live there. We do too. The town of Kumai is situated on a type of deep river inlet directly across the Tanjung Puting National Park. You are not allowed to travel through the park on your own boat, so together with our friends from the Oda and Southern Star, we rent a proper passenger ship. The wooden boats are called klotoks here. They have a crew of 3 and the top desk is reserved for passengers. From here you gaze at the landscape, eat and at nights sleep on communal bunks with mosquito nets. The orangutans live completely free in the jungle of the national park, and we as tourists wouldn't have seen them at all if the park ranger didn't feed him heaps of bananas 3 times a day at designated feeding stations. A rope serves as a cordon. We can only trust that the powerful animals really only eat bananas. A glance at the map shows that we are really very close to Singapore. Almost every boat meets on the island of Belitung, another official rally station. Several crews are in a hurry and leave the rally from here to sail directly to Singapore. We are sure that we will sail right up to the official end of the rally. The country and the people begin to change. However, we hardly notice this as we are traveling so slowly in the sailing boat. The cliffs of Belitung remind us strongly of the Swedish archipelago coast south of Stockholm. The official program on this island is so extensive that we have to make a bit of an effort to take part in everything. The now almost obligatory school visit with music and dancing by the children continues to provide us with joy. We are very impressed by a group of young people who perform the breathtaking dragon dance. The artistry is certainly not without its risk, but the group has masterful skill and they are pleased at our applause. We travel by local motorboat to the very small neighboring island of Lengkuas, which has a 129-year-old lighthouse on it. It was built by the Dutch and brought over as a building kit, complete with countless iron plates and bolted together on site. The view from a height of 60 meters over the sea and the tiny island is unique. Pinuba, situated further in the north, finally gives us the feeling that we are really in Asia. The houses stand on stilts in the water. Life is played out in and on the water, and occasionally the oppressive humidity makes our blood pressure rise. It's not that we are especially lethargic, but everything moves at a much slower, more relaxed pace. The welcome ritual performed on this island, in magnificent costumes, is more reminiscent of a type of a battle than a friendly welcome. We reached the small town of Kellit on November 13, 2014 and crossed the equator for the second time, this time from south to north. After almost 2 years, we are thus back in the northern hemisphere of the Earth. Together with our sailing friends, we honor this event at the Equator Monument built here. The village elders take us in local boats to a small neighboring island where sea nomads have settled. There's not one single house on land. All the identical-looking settler dwellings are situated in the water. A small diesel generator serves as a power station to provide electricity. We are so touched by the hospitality of the inhabitants that the next day we search our boats for useful presents for the hosts so we can express our gratitude. The next official stop, Tanjung Pinang, leaves us speechless. The large city is loud, dirty and repellent. Those responsible for us know this and instead make sure to take us to the pretty tourist island next door. Everything is now fine again. The skipper, surrounded by local beauty, feels accordingly honored. The Special Economic Zone Banda, directly opposite Singapore, is the final stop of our rally through Indonesia. Nothing here feels Indonesian. Industry, hotels, shopping malls and a strong police presence remain in our memories of this place. We end the fantastic, wonderful Sail to Indonesia rally with 10 boats and celebrate a fabulous farewell party in a fish restaurant. The large karaoke stage is occupied permanently by brave soloists, and the knowledge that this is our last evening together tips the atmosphere slightly towards sentimental. All the more as we take the stage together as a farewell and sing our last joint song with full abandon. Rod Stewart's Sailing Once Again. Well, what else?